Welcome to the Smithsonian Environmental Research Center. I'm Genevieve Noyce, and I'm a scientist in CERC's Biogeochemistry lab. So biogeochemistry sounds like it's something really complicated, but what it really means is that instead of studying just biology or just geology or just chemistry, in the lab we study all of those things together in our attempt to understand how ecosystems work. One of the things that we study in the biogeochemistry lab is coastal ecosystems, which include marshes, like this one you can see right here. And these coastal marshes exist at this boundary between where the water comes in from, in this case, an estuary off Chesapeake Bay, and the land. And they're providing this buffer between the water and the land. And what we in the biogeochemistry lab have been doing here for the past 30 years is trying to understand how this marsh is going to respond to future climate change. So this includes a variety of things. One of them is nutrient addition. So as you have nitrogen that can run off from the land and go into the marsh, we want to know what that's going to do. We're also looking at things like elevated carbon dioxide, which can be emitted by cars or other industrial things, and also warming, which is my particular focus. So as the world warms up like it's predicted to do, how is that going to affect this marsh ecosystem, and what does that mean for its ability to provide a habitat for a variety of animals, which includes birds, insects, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, all of which find home here in the marsh. So when we look at how these marshes are going to be affected in the future, what we want to know is, are they still going to provide these services by being a buffer between the land and the water, and also these services that are providing habitats for all these different animals. In the Global Change Research Wetland, we're looking at simulating future climate scenarios. So what the world might be like in the future, and trying to figure out how the marsh is going to respond so that we can predict what will happen. So what we have over here is, this is an elevated CO2 and temperature experiment. So each of these round chambers is simulating increased atmospheric CO2. So inside these chambers, we have a much higher level of CO2, carbon dioxide, than is currently in the atmosphere. And this is simulating what the world will look like in the future, because the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere is continually increasing, basically due to fossil fuel emissions. So we want to know, what does that do to the plants? What does that do to the survival of the marsh? And what does it mean the marsh is going to look like in the future? Also in this experiment, we have warming. So we know that the Chesapeake Bay area is predicted to rise by a few degrees over the next 100 years. And we want to know, what does that mean for the marsh? And so we have these overhead lamps that are heating up each of these plots to a different amount. And we also have cables, so wires that go 4 feet down into the soil and also heat up the soil. And together, we're able to figure out what the marsh is going to look like in the future.